Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely demystify Linux process management. If you've ever felt like your Linux terminal is the one calling the shots and controlling you, rather than the other way around, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to break down the difference between foreground and background processes in vivid detail, but using really simple words. No jargon, just practical stuff. By the time we wrap up, you're going to have total mastery over your command line. So, picture this. Have you ever been completely locked out of your terminal by just one single command? We've all been there, right? You start a routine task. Maybe you type in yum update to grab the latest system updates. But then you suddenly realize it's going to take 30 long minutes to finish. And there you sit, just staring at the cursor. You can't type any other commands. Your terminal is totally blocked, and you are essentially frozen out of your own workspace. It's this visceral, incredibly frustrating feeling. But the good news is, it really doesn't have to be this way. To figure out how to fix this, we first need to define what we're actually dealing with in super simple words. What exactly is a process? Honestly, a process is just any running program in Linux. Whenever you run a command, Linux creates a process. Open a text editor like V, which is basically just a place where you type code or text, kind of like Notepad. That's a process. If you run Firefox or even just tell the system to sleep, those are all processes. Now, I want you to visualize your Linux terminal as a single physical desk. This desk is your one workspace. So, sticking with that desk idea, let's look at the foreground first. If one person or process sits right at that single desk, they take up the whole thing. The terminal becomes completely attached to that process, and the shell just sits there, waiting for it to finish. It completely blocks you from doing anything else. But then, contrast that with a background process. This is like someone taking their paperwork and moving silently to the back of the room. They're still working, the job is getting done, but your desk, it is completely free for you to keep using. Another great way to think about it, a foreground process is exactly like talking on a phone call. Your attention is fully occupied. You can't really focus on another conversation at the same time. You're locked in. A background process, on the flip side, is like downloading a movie on your phone. The download continues silently behind the scenes, doing its thing, and you can still use your phone to text, browse, or do whatever else you need. Your terminal remains totally free. Here's the kicker, though. The default behavior of your system is that every single command you type actually wants to be in the foreground. It wants to be right in the front of your eyes, which, by the way, is a great little memory trick for foreground. When you type Firefox or ping google.com, Linux just assumes you want to directly interact with it right then and there. So it automatically occupies your terminal until it finishes its job. So how do we hack this default behavior? Well, this brings us to our first massive time saver. By simply adding an ampersand to the very end of your command, you completely change how it behaves. A really helpful memory trick here is to read that ampersand as "and continue working." So if you type sleep 1000 and throw that ampersand at the end, you're telling Linux, hey, run this command and give my terminal back instantly. Boom, the process goes straight to the background. Why does this matter for your everyday workflow? Well, pushing processes to the background gives you some incredible advantages. First off, you get to use that single terminal, that one desk, for multiple tasks simultaneously. It is a massive productivity booster. While a huge download is running silently in the background, you can be editing files, monitoring your system logs, or writing scripts right in the foreground. It is absolutely essential when you're dealing with long-running tasks like server backups or massive system updates. But let's be real. What if you just forget the ampersand? What if you hit enter and you're stuck in a foreground process right now? Enter your master control, your ultimate panic button, hitting Ctrl plus Z on your keyboard. Think of the Z as zap or pause. If you're stuck in a massive text file and suddenly need your terminal back to check something, you just hit Ctrl Z. This instantly freezes that current process right in its tracks and immediately hands you your terminal prompt back. All right, so you've zapped a process out of the way. Now, how do you find it again? For that, you use the jobs command. When you type jobs, Linux pulls back the curtain and reveals all of your background and suspended tasks, and it keeps them perfectly organized by assigning each one a simple, unique job ID number inside little brackets. It's honestly just like taking a number ticket out of deli counter. We refer to these as %1 or %2 when we need to issue commands to them later. And managing those job numbers is incredibly simple, with just 2 short commands. First, we have BG, the memory trick. It literally just stands for background. Typing BG followed by the job number takes that paused process you just zapped and tells it to wake up and resume running silently in the back of the room. Then we have FG. You can think of this as frontground or foreground. This command pulls a background job right back to your desk, occupying the terminal so you can interact with it face-to-face again. Let's actually put this all together into a practical workflow. Here's a quick 5-step mini lab mission you can run to master this flow completely. Step 1, start a dummy process by typing sleep 1000. Boom, your terminal is now blocked. Step 2, suspend it. Hit Ctrl Z to zap it. You have your terminal back. Step 3, type jobs to check its status. You'll see it sitting there, stopped as job 1. Step 4, type BG%1 to get it running silently in the background. And step 5, type FG%1 to pull it right back to the front. Honestly, run through this flow just once and you will never forget it. Now, hold on a second, because we do need to talk about a serious danger here, especially if you're working on remote servers. Backgrounding a process with an ampersand is great, but it is tied to your current session. If you close your terminal window, or say your laptop goes to sleep, or your SSH connection, your remote link to a server far away, drops, your background processes might just die with it. All that 30-minute update work we talked about earlier, completely lost, just because your internet blipped for a second. Thankfully, there's a bulletproof workaround for this. It's the no-hup command. The easiest memory trick for no-hup is to read it as no hang-up. When you drop no-hup at the very beginning of your command and stick that ampersand at the end, you are explicitly telling Linux, keep this process running, do not let it stop, even if I log out, even if the terminal closes, absolutely do not hang up on this job. Okay, one more hurdle. Messy, spammy output. Sometimes you've got a process running nicely in the background, but it keeps spitting text out onto your screen, interrupting what you're actually trying to type. To fix this, we use /dev/null. Think of /dev/null as the ultimate Linux black hole, or just a bottomless dustbin. Anything, absolutely any text or output you send into /dev/null simply disappears forever without a trace. Let's combine all this magic for ultimate control. Take the yes command. Normally, it just prints an infinite stream of the letter Y, which would flood your screen in about a millisecond. But if we redirect that output into the black hole of /dev/null and we add our trusty ampersand to put it in the background, we have just created an infinite process, running entirely silently, taking up zero space on our screen. It is completely out of the way. You know, speaking of processes running silently out of the way, your Linux system actually relies heavily on this exact concept to even function. Behind the scenes, the Linux kernel, the brain of your operating system, runs a silent army of background processes. Things like systemd, cron for scheduling your tasks, sshd so you can connect remotely, and rsyslog for tracking errors. We call these daemons or services. They are the ultimate background processes, silently grinding away to keep your entire system running smoothly while you work at your desk. Let's do a rapid-fire recap of your new toolkit. To run something normally, just type the command. To run it out of sight, add the ampersand. To pause a process in its tracks, zap it with Ctrl Z. Want to see your hidden tasks? Type jobs. Need a task to resume in the background? Use BG and the job number. To pull it front and center, use FG. And if you need a task to survive literally anything, wrap it with no-hup and an ampersand. So here's the absolutely simplest way to remember all of this. The one-line ultimate memory formula. Foreground means your terminal is busy. Background means your terminal is free. Ctrl Z is pause. BG is run behind. FG is bring front. The ampersand is start behind. And no-hup is survive logout. It's really that simple. So my final challenge to you is, are you going to open up your terminal and try out this new superpower today? Go run that mini lab, zap a process, and take back control of your desk. Thanks so much for exploring this with me.